Greetings, my fellow gamers, and welcome back to the Shipyard reboot. The ship we're going to be taking a look at in this episode is the mighty Fuso, Japanese Tier 6. Fuso, being the classical name for Japan, was the lead battleship of two Fuso-class battleships. First one obviously being Fuso, and the second one was the Yamashiro. Fuso was launched in 1914 and commissioned into the Imperial Japanese Navy in 1915. She initially patrolled off the coast of China, playing no part in World War I. In 1923, she assisted survivors of the Great Kento earthquake. Fuso underwent two modernization periods, the first in 1930 and the second one in 1937, with improvements to her armor, machinery, and a rebuilt superstructure in the pagoda mast style, with only 14-inch guns, same as the Congo. However, she was outclassed by Japanese battleships at the beginning of World War II and played an auxiliary role for most of the war. She was sank on October 25th, 1944 by torpedoes and naval gunfire during the Battle of Seguro Strait, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, after 40 minutes of flooding. Of the few dozen crew members who escaped, only 10 survivors returned to Japan. Yeesh. So that's a little historical information for you. Let's take a look at her armor in-game. Alright, so here's the lovely Fuso. Isn't she just beautiful? Alright, so let's take a look at her armor. Well, starting off with her conning tower, or the superstructure I should say, is an armor thickness of 16 millimeters. So armor-piercing shells are not really going to be doing much damage here. HE is probably going to be doing a lot of damage here. Right here at the conning tower, her armor thickness is 305 millimeters. Like I said, you're probably not going to be doing that much damage here with armor piercing. Now here's where the big bucks are at. So, her main battery turret armor is 229. On the sides, 115 millimeter on the top. And then the main battery mount barbette armor is 305 millimeters. Her deck armor is only 35 millimeters, so it's going to be a little bit vulnerable to armor-piercing plunging fire at extreme ranges. Her armor belt is 152 millimeters. Fore-end plating is going to be 25 millimeters. Let me zoom out here. Fore-end belt armor is going to be 102 millimeters, I should say. Excuse me. I forgot how to do meters. And then fore-end plating, armor thickness is 25 millimeters. Torpedo bulges is going to be 19 millimeters. So this ship is not going to be doing really well against torpedoes. But the torpedo bulges on the below the waterline is 19 millimeters. So this ship is not going to be able to take a couple of torpedo hits. And of course, with that, with that thick armor belt, that armor piercing is going to do a lot of damage. Moving back here, we got the aft armor plating is 25 millimeters. Same as the front, and her aft end armor belt is 102 millimeters. All in all, this ship is not going to be doing well against slugging matches at close range, especially when dealing with torpedoes. So you're going to have to keep your distance in this ship. Okay, now that we took a look at her armor, let's take a look at her stats. Bear in mind the ship is fully upgraded, so I'm basing it off of these stats. Her survivability is 69, with a total number of hit points of 57,100. We've already covered the armor. Torpedo protection damage reduction is 36%. Her artillery is at 86, with her main battery. She has 12 guns. 2 guns mounted per turret for a total of 6 turrets. 2 in the front, 2 in the bow, 2 midships, and 2 astern. Her main battery consists of a reload time of 28 seconds, 180-degree turn time, meaning, say, for example, if you're turning the turrets from starboard to port or port to starboard, is 42 seconds. I'm sorry, 46 seconds. I'm reading that wrong. Maximum dispersion is 224 meters. Maximum HE shell damage is 5,700. Chance of fire on target is 25%. So meaning, if the HE shell hits the ship, it has a 25% chance of setting it on fire, which is good. You have a 1 in 4 chance of setting a ship on fire, and you've got 12 guns to do it with. Maximum armor-piercing shell damage is 10,200. The firing range of your main batteries is going to be 21.8 kilometers. This is base. If you have the proper upgrade, of course. Initial armor-piercing shell velocity is going to be 750 meters per second, and HE shell velocity is going to be 850 meters per second. Moving on to her secondary batteries, she has these secondary batteries. She has 4 of them mounted in 2 she has 2 barrels mounted in 4 turrets. So we're going to see 1 here. So we're going to see 2 starboard side, and I believe it's 2 port side. Let's take a look at that. Yep. Okay. So these secondary batteries have a reload time of 4.5 seconds. Maximum HE shell damage is 2,100. Chance of fire is 8%. Firing range is 4.2 kilometers, and initial shell velocity is going to be 725 meters per second. Now, this is where her secondary batteries are just amazing. I love the secondary batteries on the Fuso. She has 14 secondary batteries mounted into the deck. So you're going to see 7 on this side. Yeah, 7 on this side, I think. Hang on, let me count. I don't want to get this wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I was wrong, and I apologize for that. She has 14 guns mounted on the deck, with a reload time of 9 seconds. Maximum AP shell damage is 2,900. Firing range is 4.2 kilometers, and initial shell velocity is 855 meters per second. Looking at her AA defense is... it's decent. You're not going to be taking on squadrons by yourself in this. The most I could say about her anti-aircraft guns is... if you combine it with a cruiser, it's going to be good. But starting off with her 25mm Type 96 AA guns, there's 17 of them. Has an average damage per second, I'm tongue-tying myself, of 34, with a firing range of 3.1, depending, it all depends on how you spec your captain, but relative base stats is going to be 3.1 kilometers. The next ones are going to be 25mm Type 96 Twin mod, and that has an average damage, or average DPS, as I should say it correctly, of 55, with a firing range of 3.1. And then we get to the bigger guns. The 127mm Type 89 A1 anti-aircraft guns have an average DPS of 44, and a firing range of 5.0 kilometers. So her maneuverability is poor. She has a maximum speed of 24 knots, which is a little bit faster than most other Tier 6s. For most of the other tier 6s that you'll be facing, actually, let me go ahead and pull that up right here. Most of the other tier 6 battleships you'll be facing are warspites, which go only 23 knots. The Byron, which has a max speed of 25, so it's a little bit faster. And the Dunkirk, which can go up to 29 knots. 30 if you add the flag to it. So the Dunkirk is going to outspeed you, but these other two ships, you'll be able to keep up. Her turning radius is 740 meters with a rudder shift time of 14.9 seconds. Concealment, detectability by air is 18.9 kilometers, and detectability by air is 12.2. And if I said air for detectability at sea, I apologize for that. Okay, now that we took a look at her stats, let's take a look at what commander skills you should think about investing in the Fuso. So, as it stands right now, you should definitely get basics of survivability. That is an absolute must for any battleship captain. The second one is kind of optional. Basic fire training. You can if you want to. This will help improve your AA defense and your secondary batteries, but only just a little bit. But if you want to get it, I would say get it. For level 2, obviously you want to get Expert Marksman. This is going to allow your turrets to turn faster. At level 3, now these stats are going to be kind of optional, or these upgrades, as I should say. You definitely want to get High Alert, because this allows your damage control ability to be recharged faster. Because let's face it, you're going to get set on fire, you're going to have torpedoes shot at you, you want to have that thing ready for when you start taking that incoming fire. You can get Superintendent if you want to. It's not a mandatory requirement to get it, it's kind of optional. But it will help you with getting a little bit extra health in case you need it. For level 4, you definitely want to get advanced fire training, because you want to get those secondary batteries upgraded to where they can fire just a little bit farther to keep destroyers out of your range. But like I said, this is primarily going to help your AA defense more than your secondary batteries. If you want to go for a secondary battery build, then you should probably do it on a different ship, more preferably like the Yamato or something. And then for level 5, it's going to be up to you. You can either go with manual fire control for secondary armament, or you can go for manual fire control for AA. I would just leave that option open for you to decide. Okay, now that we took a look at the commander skills, which are, it's more of an opinion than anything else, but if you want to get a more expert advice, I would ask a more expert player on what you should choose, but this is just my recommendations. Now let's take a look at her module upgrades. Module upgrades, obviously, when you're grinding up the Fuso, you want to get these hull upgrades first. That is an absolute must, because for the second hull upgrade, yeah, you get more guns and stuff like that. Yep, you definitely need that. You're going to need that health. I believe, yeah. So, and then the next thing you want to go for is propulsion, or you can go for the gunfire control system. Normally what I would do is go hull, gunfire control, and then engine upgrade, or propulsion, however you want to pronounce it. Alright, so looking at her ammunition and consumables, obviously it's going to be standard. You can go with regular damage control, or you can go with the premium upgrade, or the premium consumable, as I should say. Same thing with the repair party. You can go standard or premium. Now, you only get spotting planes, so you can choose premium or regular. Looking at her upgrades, though, this is where you need to really decide what you want to do with the Fuso. You can play her as, well, I'll get to that in a second. Obviously for the first upgrade slot, you're going to want to choose main armaments modification. This is an absolute requirement for battleships, is what I've been told anyway. You got to keep those turrets active, you got to keep them working, you got to keep them firing. And you definitely want to get those batteries repaired as quickly as possible and keep them active. For slot 2, this one is kind of optional. This one's a little bit more open than the first one. You can choose the aiming systems, which helps decrease dispersion and helps your secondary batteries, mainly. Since the Fuso doesn't have torpedoes, the second one doesn't really apply to it. I would avoid main battery modification too, because those turrets are going to turn slower, and you need to have those turrets turning as fast as possible. You can go AA modification too, to help boost those AA guns if you want to. And same thing with this one, secondary battery modification. You can, but I really wouldn't recommend it. Obviously with this one, damage control, hands down. You can choose propulsion, you can choose the steering gear modification, but for me, I would choose the damage control, because like I said, you're going to be taking that incoming fire. You got to get that stuff repaired as quickly as possible. And the last one is, since I haven't got it yet, the last one's kind of open. You're definitely going to want to get the... If I were you, I would get the steering modification. This helps reduce the rudder shift time, and so that makes it so the Fuso will turn a little bit faster. But again, that's my personal recommendation. Other players will tell you different. I would just say go with what you feel should work best on your Fuso. Alright, so to close out this little review of the Fuso, I wanted to talk about how an amazing ship she is for a Tier 6. She has some of best stats for a Tier 6 battleship. She has the best range, she has a great health pool, she can deliver devastating fire with her salvos, but there's a lot of negatives to her as well. For example, she has a very large pagoda-style mast, and that leaves you open to a lot of fires. Stuff tends to break easily on the Fuso, but if you can get past all of these negatives, the Fuso is a great ship. Now, the real question is, once you've completed the Fuso and you're ready to make your way to the Nagato, what should you do with the Fuso? I would say keep her. She is a great money-making ship. Yeah, that about covers it. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this review of the Fuso. I hope you enjoyed the reboot of the series, and if you want to vote for your next episode, please feel free to on the forums. I will see you guys next time. Have a good one.